Let me read to you a passage from the 5th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 17 to 37. It's the Gospel for Sunday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time, Year A. I will only read a small part of the passage because it is very long. St. Matthew writes, Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Anyone who breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said, 'Do not commit adultery,' but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. It has been said that anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce, but I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for marital unfaithfulness causes her to become an adulteress, and anyone who marries the divorced woman commits adultery." That's from Matthew, or part of the passage from Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 to 37. What does it suggest to us? Well, it tells us about our Lord's teaching on lust. You know, I remember when presenting a paper to my thesis supervisor years ago in one university, I made mention of the fact that John Henry Newman, described religion as being a matter of authority and obedience. There is no true religion without the recognition of God's authority to command and our obeying his commands. The supervisor was not impressed with this description. He insisted on love being the essence of religion. Well, of course, love is of the essence of religion, but it is too vague. Love means any number of things. What it needs is a test to determine its real nature. A person can say that he is in love when all that he is meant is that he is infatuated. Once the infatuation passes, he regards himself as no longer in love. Our Lord gave a test when it came to being in love with him, and that test is obedience to his commands. "If you love me, you will keep my commands," he said on one occasion. In that sense, the religion of Jesus Christ is a matter of recognizing his authority and obeying his commands. In our gospel passage today, our Lord insists on obedience to the law of God. Anyone who breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But then he goes on to expound the extent of this obedience, and it must exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. These leaders were distinguished in the popular mind for their obedience to the rules of religion. They claimed to obey the law in all its letters and in all its strokes. But our Lord charged them with observing a deformation of the law, a rule of life that stressed externals and appearances while leaving untouched a corrupted heart. Our Lord warned that unless our righteousness exceeds a purely external religion, we shall never enter the kingdom of heaven. Our righteousness, our holiness, must be above all a holiness of the heart. Our Lord gives many instances of this, but I wish here to mention one of them, the one that was mentioned in the reading of the Gospel a little earlier. It is his mention of lustful desires and thoughts. Our Lord tells his hearers that anyone who looks at a person lustfully has already committed a serious sin of lust in his heart, and that all must ruthlessly avoid being led into such sins of the heart. Speaking with characteristic Hebraic hyperbole, our Lord insists, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. The fact is that much of literature and drama and much of modern media is pervaded by enticements to lust. The aim is to capture attention and interest, and the simple means employed is that of referring to and portraying lustful situations and images. The one who wishes to be truly human, in its best sense, let alone a disciple of Christ, must avoid thoughts and desires that will debase in this way the mind and heart. Such thoughts and desires, prompted by images from various sources, can become like dangerous drugs. Lust can quickly become an addiction and the source of terrible interior sins, what our Lord calls adultery of the heart, and all its den of swarming serpents. God our judge sees all. I invite you to reflect on the seriousness of this, precisely because our culture has become so laden with lustful gratification. Each person must be vigilant against this enemy. The disciple of Christ has the vocation to put on the mind of Christ and to make the mind of Christ the criterion of what holds sway in society and of the models of man it promotes. Our Lord's command to avoid interior sins of lust at all costs is part of the 9th commandment, which forbids all desire of one's neighbour's spouse. It requires that one overcome carnal concupiscence in thought and in desire, and that one purify the heart and practice temperance at that level. It forbids cultivating thoughts and desires connected with actions forbidden by the 6th commandment. The battle must be sustained to achieve a life of chastity of mind and heart, purity of vision, both exterior and interior, and a discipline of the imagination and feelings. In a word, the Christian religion requires purity of mind, heart, and life. Purity requires a modesty that protects the intimate center of the person and that expresses chastity. It guides how one looks at others and behaves towards them in conformity with the dignity of persons and their proper communion with others. It frees one from widespread eroticism and avoids those things which foster morbid curiosity. Purity also requires a purification of the social climate, the culture, by means of a constant struggle against moral permissiveness, which is founded on an erroneous conception of human freedom. In a word, let us strive to put on the mind of Christ in this matter as in everything.